Hello there and welcome back to my YouTube channel. James here as ever for today's video all about which is the best, ACCA, ACA or CIMA. Now here are just some of the actual few sort of questions and comments that I've got on this. It really comes up most days in my world. If this is the first time you visited my channel before, my name is James. I'm an ACCA qualified member from the UK, and on my channel I help out accounting students and professionals around the world, sharing my experience and insights to help you out. So hopefully today's video will give you some insights as to say which one you would actually prefer to actually go down. But as I'm sure you're aware from my YouTube channel, I am ACCA qualified, as I just said, and I know what people watching this will actually think. They'll be going, oh, here we go, probably going to be a bit biased on here, but in this video, trust me, I'm just going to give my honest opinion from my experience qualifying as a qualifying ACCA member in 2017, and just to make you sure aware that this person on YouTube who you're talking to is qualified. Look, here you go. I mean, same sort of hair, same sort of shirt, it's all right, it is me. And I just want to be as objective as possible in comparing and contrasting on the different professional accountancy bodies. So in these detailed points and in-depth review, these are the things I'd have liked to have known if I was at the start of my accounting career all over again, if I was in your position, just wanting to know a bit more information between the three, and then just really putting it into play to say, well, which one do I prefer? Okay, so really if you get a pen and paper at the ready, stay until the end. I'm going to go through all three of the different professional bodies, all their sort of pros and cons, and then at the end, just to give you a nice little overview as to say, well, why did I actually pick ACCA overall? I'm going to be sharing with you my experience and insights from working overseas in America. I did work in practice as well back in the UK when I undertook an actual ACCA study contract. So that was really about accounts preparation, taxation, advising clients. We'll be throwing in some academia in there, and then also having worked with ACCA, ACA and CIMA members and students throughout my career. So plenty of insights, and I hope you get those little nuggets of information that, like me, you'll be in that position where you go, well, which one should I pick? And these are the reasons why. If you would like access to all my free content that I talk about on the channel that could help you out in your career or your studies, make sure you subscribe. Just hit the button at the bottom so you get access to all my free materials and not to miss out on any future uploads. And if you like the video as we're going through, make sure you give it a massive thumbs up. I really appreciate all the support as ever to the channel. So thank you very much in advance. But just as a sort of nice leading in introduction, should I say, from a sort of general perspective, so that we can lay the foundations here. All of the qualification structures, so for the ACCA, ACA and CIMA, are actually not too different and are actually reasonably similar. So you're going to have to gain some experience in a workplace, you're going to have to complete a set number of exams, and you're going to have to complete ethics and professional skills modules, all to get those ticked off to say that you can put those actual letters after your name. But depending on your decision on which one you want to pick will impact on the sort of type of firms that you want to join, the sort of industry, the practice, the sectors. Also, this will relate into different grad schemes. Maybe you're looking at going into apprenticeships, or finally, you could be going into independent study. So the points we go through in this video will really help you out. I'm going to clear up the differences and the similarities with facts and articles, and to help you out, what I've done is I've put them all in the actual description below, so feel free to go check them out just to save you a bit of time as well. But make sure you do your own research. That is the key thing. Speak to other people about it, because it's going to be a commitment in your life for probably, well, definitely at least 3 years, because you need 3 years of qualifying experience to actually become a professional member of these professional bodies, but it can be up to 5-6 years. It depends on your circumstances, that's all. So hence the reason for this video, as these are the things that I'd have liked to have known if I was in your position when I was applying for jobs and when I first accepted my ACCA study contract at my first workplace, really. So this is where I'm just going to run you through each of the different professional bodies, what are their sort of pros, what are their cons, and then it's just to keep you informed. But I think as an ACCA member myself, and that stands for the Association of Chartered Certified Accountants, I think that'll be the first one we get stuck into on here. So just to clear the air on this as well. I would say, and this may be from your own underpinning understanding, it's a case of this is the most internationally recognised of all the accounting qualifications. And the main reason for that is in 2021, ACCA had 233,000 fully qualified members around the world and also had 536,000 active students on there. The qualification is really good for people that want to move or travel with work. It gives you real flexibility on that. And ACCA is viewed as being slightly broader, I would say, in terms of scope and structure of the actual content. So it's not like CIMA, which is more management accounting focused. You're going to be covering lots of different topics, everything from audit, taxation. You've got strategic modules on there as well. You've also got financial management, laws in there. There's a real wide variety. In terms of difficulty now, okay, there is a 50% pass mark needed in the actual exams. There are 13 in total, so that's from start to finish, assuming you don't have any exemptions. And the pass rate for those exams, so out of the 100 that sit the exam, for the applied skills levels, so the applied skills are the sort of middle tier, they're around about 40 to 50% is the pass rate, whereas when you get onto the strategic and option papers, which are more advanced, that's between sort of 30 to 40% on there. So in other words, as you would expect, the further you progress in your ACCA journey, going through the more exams, the harder they get, and the lower percentage of students that pass. There are a wide variety of ways to actually become ACCA qualified, and I touched on it earlier, but it's a really flexible qualification where you don't have to take them anymore in blocks of 3. You can just take one exam at a time. There are 4 sittings a year, and I'm sure maybe some old school members will be saying to me in the comments, again, I remember in my day when we had to do 3 at a time and all this sort of stuff. So I'm ready, I'm prepared for it. It's just my honest opinion. I'm just giving you the facts and the figures on here. But I tend to find good links to students who actually start, and this is looking at the different flexible ways in terms of ACCA, that they actually do the qualification called the AAT on there, and we'll talk about this later on, as an apprentice, or they actually go to college. So this is actually not needing to have a degree and to actually go straight out of school and to having these other options, so maybe not going to university. So what this means is you're actually qualifying as AAT, so the Association of Accounting Technicians, and then they actually transition, as I like to call it on here, to ACCA, and you'll gain a few exemptions, usually 3, possibly 4, and this process can take usually 5 years. But it's that sort of partnership and that transition that if you're new to accounting, quite a lot of people in the UK go and do their AAT qualification and then they progress onto ACCA. But like ACA and CIMA on there, the degree route with exemptions are also very popular. So they can, if you go to university and making sure that your university degree has the relevant exemptions that the modules you're doing actually tick the box for, ACCA, ACA and CIMA, 9 times out of 10 they actually will. Just to also put it out there as well, it's not quite like CFA, so the Chartered Financial Analysis, in terms of international recognition, but it's going to be greater, it has greater international presence. And just to sort of put this out there for you, the qualification out of the 3 is the one that when I've been working or I've been to networking events or working with other professionals in different sectors, it's the one ACCA that non-accounting professionals have actually heard about. So maybe one of their colleagues or friends or family members have actually done ACCA and they recognise it the most, but that's just coming from my experience on there. So it's just a case of how recognised it is, the flexibility, the international recognition, and then also the wide variety of ranges to actually get into it as well. Plus, it's really well advocated for with all the members, as I'm part of myself. But anyway, that's less of ACCA now, because now we've got to move on to, more importantly on here, we've got to look at the ACA on here. So not to get it confused, and the ACA stands for Associate Chartered Accountants. So just to be clear, if you want to get that written down in your notes, and this is the qualification from the ICAEW, and that's the Institute of Chartered Accountants in England and Wales. So we've got to be looking at sort of which ones are better in different ways, how we're going to compare and contrast it. And just to make it crystal clear, I did mention that ACCA is the most internationally recognised. ACA is still internationally accepted, but it's more recognised in the UK due to the relationship with the big four firms. So that's really PwC, KPMG, Deloitte and EY on there. But the big swing towards students that do this, especially in the UK, was really because of the actual prestige of it. So when you hear that the big four accounting firms in there historically have always had the ACA qualification, then that's the real sort of cornerstone, just to say, well, if you're coming to the big accounting firms, this is the qualification that we want you to do. But I did touch on there that this is sort of historically. So this has given ACCA the bigger pedigree in the past, I would say, of the accounting qualifications, because they are being more associated with the big four. But what I've found in recent years from winding my actual connections on there and working with some of the students in the actual big four, but students actually now have more flexibility that if they want to go and work at the big four, they also have the option of doing ACCA now. So maybe if you're working for the big four and you're watching this, I don't know, pop it in the comments below, let me know how you're getting on. But I tend to find now that yes, there still will be, and when I was looking at my job search in 2013, when I was first looking, the majority of the big four were saying, yes, we want you to do ACA. Fast forward now into 2021, then we're actually seeing more flexibility that yes, ACCA is being introduced into it, but ACA still has that sort of pedigree and prestige being advocated by the big four on that. But it's just for honesty and clarity for the video. It's just the facts on it. So ACA from their actual 2020 annual review now, just so you get a flavour for the actual size, had 157,801 qualified members and have 31,656 actively studying students. So sizable on there, and again, internationally recognised, but just not quite the size as the ACCA in comparison. But this is where we can actually make some comparisons as we go through again. But we looked at the ACCA had a pass mark of 50%. The ACA has a pass mark of 55% needed in the exams. Pass rates, again, it depends on the actual exams. But as you go through and progress to some of the harder exams, obviously, as you would expect, that pass rate goes down. But the interesting thing is that the actual pass rates of the ACA exams range between 70 to 80% on that. But the key thing here is, compared to ACCA that we looked at before, you have to do 15 exams for ACA, but for ACCA you only have to do 13. This is where we get into the interesting bits, as to say, well, you can only do a maximum of 4 attempts at the professional and certificate levels in ACA, okay? So there is no limit on the actual advanced levels, so these are the final exams that you do with the case study, or for the overall qualification. So when you start, there is actual sort of no limit for when you actually have to finish it by. It's just, and just make sure you get this down in your notes, you get 4 attempts, four tries of those exams that you can fail on for the professional and certificate level. ACCA, on the other hand, you are allowed to attempt the exams as many times, no matter how many fails on there, but ACCA have a 10-year time frame to finish all the exams from when you sat your first exam. So just a bit of a change on there, and you've got different parameters, and they also have a 7-year cut-off rule to complete all of your strategic and option papers. That's for the ACCA. So in terms of ACA, you've got as much time as you like. ACCA, you've got 10 years on that. But it's just to make you aware of the little differences to be aware of. These are just some of the reasons why, in my opinion, especially in the UK now, ACA is held in higher prestige. So we've talked about with the higher percentage on there, with the 55%. You've also got it being associated with the Big Four. It's the actual, it's named and actually affiliated with England and Wales on there. So when I speak with ACA members and students, there's sort of a, this isn't me only being honest on here, there's sort of a sort of competition or sort of stigma behind how many exams you sort of took at one time and how many you passed, and maybe you did 2 at a time, but it seemed more competitive, I think is probably the word on it. Whereas when I was at college with ACCA and speaking with other students there, it was really sort of never like that, and I've never sort of had any of that sort of experience. I mean, feel free to let me know in the comments what you think on that. Obviously, you know, I'm trying to be as transparent as possible on here. But ACCA with the flexibility, and it really gave a more sort of diverse sort of level of member, I think I would say, and student, to say you could be in class with someone who's 21 years old or mid-20s, but then you could also have students in maybe their 40s or 50s, and they've got children and commitments with ACCA. Whereas ACA, you tend to find that they'll be in the sort of big four, and other companies, they'll be in a cluster together, and they'll stay together as they progress through the exams. So again, feel free to let me know in the comments, but it's just a little comparison as to say what are the sort of differences between the two, and then what you can actually pick out to say, well, why should I pick one over the other on there? Now, coming on to CIMA, and this is the actual Chartered Institute of Management Accountants now. And just to be crystal clear, this is the most different of the actual qualifications discussed. As you can imagine, there is more emphasis placed on management accounting. You can work that out from the actual name, because it's the Chartered Institute of Management Accountants. And just be clear again, so that you're understanding what the sort of differences is, and if you were to go through it, CIMA covers all the usual suspects in their qualification. So if you become CIMA qualified, you're still going to be doing financial accounting, financial management on there, but this is where we have to be really crystal clear that financial accounting, just so you're aware, and this, if I'm teaching you to suck eggs on this, or telling you to suck eggs, shall I say, it's a case of, I just want to make sure that everyone's clear, especially if you're new, and maybe you're new to the world of accounting, that financial accounting is preparing, analysing, and interpreting financial reports and information from an external perspective. So, for example, the annual report for 2021 maybe of Tesco PLC. So you'd actually be producing the financial accounts, going all through the disclosures and all the other relevant details in the annual report that will be disclosed to external stakeholders. Whereas management accounting, on the other hand, which CIMA is more sort of focused on, is about, again, preparing and utilising and scrutinising internal financial data sets within an actual firm or company now. So, for example, the completely other end of the spectrum, think about Tesla and Elon Musk. If you were part of the actual management accounting team there, you would say to yourself, well, how much does one car cost, and how much are all those individual components there? And how can we actually make that more effective and efficient, and how can we lower the cost of the potential components? But this is information that is not disclosed to the wider public. This is all internal to the actual business. So, we've already touched on a few of the actual figures as before. CIMA has 109,415 members, but this is back in 2017, as then they integrated the qualification with the AICPA, or longer should I say, the Association of International Certified Professional Accountants, or in other words, the CPA. And this is a more sort of US recognised qualification. So this has taken the actual joint venture and collaboration up to 642,000 members overall, and you can find these in the 2020 accounts. For CIMA, there are 12 exams in total, and they actually operate on a sort of scaled score basis, which is a bit different to ACCA and ACA. And in other words, the exams range from the pass marks of about 70 to 80%, and it has a pass rate of, again, 70 to 80%, dropping again just at the end because the exams get more difficult on there. There is no time limit to actually complete CIMA, and you can retake the exams as many times as you like. So just to be clear as to some of the differences on there for you. So from the actual partnership and joint venture, this is now given more flexibility and has actually created a different sort of names and letters after a CIMA qualified individual, which is known as the CGMA, or the Chartered Global Management Accountant on there. And what this means is when you are CIMA qualified, then you automatically become CGMA qualified, so not necessarily putting the letters CIMA after your name. And this allows you to actually work in the US and is the equivalent to their gold standard CPA qualification. So CPA is recognised in the US and CIMA is recognised in the UK. And it's the same situation for students of CPA in the US who become CPA qualified, who want to come to the UK to actually work and maybe progress their career, and they're actually CIMA qualified accountants. And once they actually become qualified, so just to be crystal clear, it's a case of if you just qualify, do all your exams, you are ACMA. And then once you become a fellow, so after I believe it's for 5 years in CIMA, you become a CGMA. So it's just to be aware of what letters you'll actually have after your name. So if you're looking for more hands-on role within a business, to more sort of nicheness in your work, usually in-house corporate and management accounting teams, then CIMA is going to be the one for you. And some employers with particular lines of work will actually only put you on a CIMA study contract. So Siemens, who actually make turbines, and this is their sort of line of work where they really want to focus in on management accounting to help grow their business, they put all of their graduates through CIMA. But that's not to say that, say, if you're an ACCA or ACA qualified member, you couldn't go work in these sort of type of roles. You could quite easily transition and pick up on the key skills, I would say, from my opinion. That if you turn up to the role and you're ACCA or ACA qualified and you say, look, I'm qualified on here, I might not have much experience in this area, but I can learn and develop on it, I'm pretty sure the employer would make flexibilities on there. The only downside is, though, that you can't sign off company accounts or an audit if you are CIMA qualified. What you'd have to do here is you'd actually have to gain a practicing certificate for this, and this could mean that you actually have to go work in practice in industry for a certain amount of time, but it's just to make you aware for the video. A final thing to mention for CIMA, for a good thumbs up in terms of if you go from university now, all of the exemptions to claim for CIMA are completely free. Whereas for ACCA and ACA, you actually have to pay the exam fee what you would have had to have paid if you were to have sat it, and that can rack up to at least over £1,000 depending on the number of exemptions you get. So big tick for CIMA there. But coming on to now my sort of opinion as to, well, we've got to be clear now as to say, first of all, there is no ranking system just for this video on here as to say that ACCA, ACA or CIMA, the number 1, number 2, number 3, whatever it may be. We have to get the record straight here that all of these qualifications are prestigious global accounting qualifications, that no matter which option you pick, it will enhance your career and your prospects. That's just a given for you. They're all fantastic options and will open doors to actually boost your career. It's just to highlight the importance now of actually gaining that qualification, the professional qualification, should I say, and it's going to add value to you in the marketplace, and it really could take your career to different places around the world and open up those sort of more job opportunities as well. In all honesty, should I say, no one option is going to restrict your career progression. So if you pick CIMA over ACCA, what you actually find is, and I find from my connections out there in the profession, lots of people who become CIMA qualified also maybe do ACA or ACCA on top of it as well, just to cover themselves in case they move country or it's required by their employer. I see lots of jobs in the UK especially that mainly are ACCA and ACA, but most of them actually consider CIMA as well, depending on the actual role and what they're looking for. So yes, it is a commitment of 3 to 5 years to complete, but don't think of it as a sort of life and death situation that it's going to be the end of the world or anything on those lines. If you're still unsure about accounting as a career and you'd like to involve yourself a bit more or get a bit more exposure, what I would recommend, and I'll put it up here for you and in the description below, to check out the ACCAX free resources and courses on there. Do the introduction to sort of bookkeeping and management accounting, and this will give you a really good base and understanding, and they're all free. So I definitely have a look at those. Other accounting actual qualifications vary on levels, and you may also want to consider the AAT that we touched on earlier, because that's a really good foundation introductory one. If you're looking to go down more the tax route and to specialise there, I'd recommend ATT. Okay, so that's the Association of Tax Technicians. Then you would progress after that to the CTA, and that's the Chartered Tax Advisors. There are also ICSA, so that's the Chartered Governance Institute. CIPFA's another good one, so the Chartered Institute of Public Finance and Accountancy. And finally, you've got ICAS on there, the Institute of Chartered Accountants in Scotland. So these are more specific to certain geographical locations like Scotland and also other professions and areas. So if you want to do a bit of research into them, all credible areas, and you tend to find people who actually do these qualifications then also go on to complete ACCA, ACA or CIMA on top of that. So no matter which one you pick, whether that be ACCA, ACA or CIMA, all of them can open, as we said, a variety of career opportunities, and with either letters at the end of your name once you've qualified, all of that hard work and passing all the exams along with all the other requirements, trust me, will be worth it. So what I've done for you, as I said, is all the articles and references that I refer to in the video with one of the actual qualifications does this versus the other, I've put in the description below for you to check out and to help you too. And at the end of the day, please make sure you do your own research before you pick the one that you want to go into. Finally, the main sort of reason that I picked ACCA over the other two was really for the international recognition and the actual members who were in the practice that I worked at who just highly advocated for it. And when I was actually doing my research for it, ACCA were really the ones that stood out. But if you were to, as I said in the video, pick any of the others, you can transition, it's all right. It's a case of just giving you the full information in the video today. So if you have found it helpful going through it, make sure you give it a massive like and thumbs up below. I really appreciate the support. And if you want to access to all my free materials, just hit the subscribe button below. You'll get access to all my new videos. And if you've got any questions or comments, or let me know what you thought of the video. Obviously, be nice. I try to be as transparent and objective as possible. Drop me a comment below. I answer them all, and more than happy to help you out if you've got any accounting questions. So feel free to share it if it's going to help anyone else out, if they're starting their accounting career. But what I'd just like to say is wish you all the best of luck with your accounting journey. I hope my new videos and experience and everything we put on the channel helps you out. So I really, really appreciate it. What I've done for you as a final treat is I've given you 2 more videos at the end here. If you click one of them, they are definitely going to help you pass that next exam or give you that little insight to help you out. But as always on that bombshell, I'll see you next time. Cheers.